Great. Can someone just kick the door to the youth thing as well? So we're in a Sunday series at the moment that we're called The Wonder of Life. We've been looking at kind of various different aspects or elements of human life, all the way from the womb, all the way through to the tomb. And we've looked at the wonder of the womb. We've looked at the wonder last week of marriage, sex, and singleness. And I actually want to start today by picking up something that I kind of felt like we didn't really do justice to last week, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to in the time that we had, and that is singleness. We kind of passed over it fairly quickly. So what I wanted to do is, we're not going to talk about singleness the whole of this morning, but what I want to do is just show you a little video, just of a testimony of somebody just speaking about this issue. And then out of that, we're then going to bounce into looking at this subject, which is the wonder of friendship. So that's kind of where we're headed to over this morning. So have a little look at this this video.
My name's Hannah, originally from Devon in the UK, and now I live in Cambodia, where I work for a little counselling charity called Living Well. There's so many things I love about working and living in Cambodia, and one of them is that within the Christian expat community in Cambodia, being single is really common. So I think sometimes in the UK church, it can feel like a bit of an odd, unusual thing to be, but here it's pretty common, so that's really great. My experience of being single in the church has generally been pretty positive, both in Cambodia and in the UK. I've generally felt pretty welcomed and included and found it really easy to make friends. I think one exception, though, is that I have found that the church can often see singleness as a bad thing. So just as an example, I went to a church small group once, and there were lots of new people there. So we were all introducing ourselves. And people were introducing themselves saying, oh, my name is this, I'm married to this person, I have these kids. So I said, my name's Hannah, I'm married to no one, and I have no kids. And people's responses were either kind of a bit awkward or a little bit kind of pitying. And one person even said, oh, don't say that. And I was really confused, like, why wouldn't I say that though? Because I am single, and that's not something I'm sad about or ashamed about. It's just a fact, and it's a fact I'm quite happy about. So yeah, there can be this kind of pity and this kind of assumption that you're sad or that your life isn't as good as other people's. And I think that's actually really unbiblical, because the Bible talks about singleness being a gift. And if we talked about any other gift like that, it would be really weird. Like, imagine if you got like a gift that you really wanted. So just for the sake of the metaphor, let's imagine you got given an iPhone for Christmas, right? And then people started saying to you, you got this iPhone and you're really excited about it and you're really enjoying it. And then people start saying, oh, you got an iPhone. Oh, that's a shame, isn't it? Oh, but don't worry, because I've met people even older than you who have managed to get rid of their iPhones. And it's weird you've got an iPhone because you're a really great person. So I think you really deserve something different. And, there are apps that can help you get rid of iPhones, and there's people I can introduce you to who can help you get rid of iPhones. So just don't worry at all. Don't worry, we'll be able to get rid of it really quickly and make things better. And, just don't be sad. Don't be sad about having been given an iPhone, because we'll fix it and we'll help you get rid of it. It would just be like such a weird way to talk about any other gift. And I think that's how I feel about singleness. Like, God's giving me this amazing gift of singleness, and it's meant I can easily move to another country. It's meant I can travel in ways I never otherwise would have been able to. I can do things in ministry I wouldn't have otherwise been able to. And I think the thing I find really ironic as well is that when I talk to non-Christians, most of them can understand that singleness is a good thing, and they can kind of celebrate that with me. And yet it's the Christians who seem to struggle to believe it. And yet it's in the Bible, there's this Bible verse that really clearly says that singleness is a gift, and it talks about the benefits of singleness. And yet the church seem to be the last people to want to believe this Bible verse. And it's the non-Christians who seem to be quite happy to believe that singleness can be good, at least in my experience anyway. Maybe it's different for other people. So yeah, I think that's strange. And I know there are some people who are really unhappy about being single, who really wanted to get get married and are really grieving that hasn't happened. So I'm definitely not saying we should sort of force some kind of false positivity on them. The Bible says we should weep with those who weep. So for people who are unhappy about being single, definitely we should be coming alongside them and grieving with them. But equally, for those of us who are really happy being single, I would really love to see the church come alongside us by celebrating that with us and acknowledging it, and not trying to fix it, and not trying to diagnose it, not going, oh, but why aren't you looking for a relationship? Is it because you've had a bad experience? Is it because your parents had a messy divorce or whatever? Because for a lot of us that isn't the case, and even if it was, like, there doesn't have to be a reason. We can be happy being single just because the Bible is right about the fact that singleness is a great thing. And whether it's, some of us, that's going to be a case just for a season of our lives, and some of us, it's going to be a case for the whole of our lives. But either way, I think I'd just love to see the church recognizing singleness as the gift that it is and celebrating it instead of trying to pity it or fix it.
It's good, isn't it? Interesting testimony, and good for us to just think about and reflect on. I think if I was to survey people today, even in this room, but outside of this room as well, and if I was to ask, what does it mean to be intimate? What does it mean to be intimate? Then in our culture, a lot of the answers that would be given would be sexual. Because in our 21st century culture, intimacy and sex have become connected together, kind of as if they are synonymous with each other. But actually, intimacy and sex are not the same thing. They definitely aren't. Now, if you were to Google intimacy, you will find loads of the responses that come up are all related to sex. But I want to put it to us today that intimacy and sex are not the same thing. And it's really important for us as a church to understand the difference between the two of them. Here's how the dictionary defines it. Intimacy, or intimate, is a feeling of deep emotional and/or physical closeness in a relationship characterized by trust, acceptance, and vulnerability. And I want to say this morning that I believe that non-sexual, intimate friendships are essential for human flourishing. They're essential for human flourishing. In fact, there's something that God has given to us, like a gift that he's given to us, that we might live and enjoy and thrive in this abundant life that he's promised us and has given to us. And when you look through the Bible, it's very hard to overstate the importance of these kind of friendships, because they come up, or reference to friendships like this come up over and over again. Let's go back to a verse that we quoted every week so far in this series, which is Genesis 1:26, where God says, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." There's God saying, "Let us make in our image." There's God speaking in the plural, because he is plural, although there's only one God. Don't get confused, there's only one God, but he is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He's one God in three persons. Now you can get confused, but don't get confused about the one God bit. One God in three persons. And that's so important because the Bible opens with God demonstrating that he lives within perfect community, perfect friendship, if you like, within himself. And so if he lives within that perfect community, that perfect relationship of the Godhead, and he has made us in his image, then it stands to reason that we also should live within community. So Genesis 2:18, the Lord God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone." And last week we looked at that verse really in relation to marriage and just tried to explore that a little bit. But I think it stands true for all human relationships. We are designed by God to live and to be in community, to live and to be in friendship. That's why the church exists. Like you can be a Christian at home on your own, but that's not God's best plan for you. I'm afraid to say God's best plan is for you to be here, well, in the gathered church, to be in the church together. We are not just an organization. We are not just this sort of vehicle. We are what the Bible calls the ecclesia. That's the Greek word. It's the called out, called together people of God. And so he wants us to live together in this community, in these friendships, these intimate friendships. And so to illustrate that this morning, what I want to do It's taken us to a very famous friendship in the Bible between Jonathan, who's the son of King Saul, and David, who goes on to become the king. And they have a very close friendship together. And we're going to just bounce through a few different verses from 1 and 2 Samuel. But we're going to start with right at the end, actually, of David in 2 Samuel, looking back at his life. And he says something that is kind of like it's hard for our 21st century ears to read this right. This is what David says. He says, I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were very dear to me. Your love for me was wonderful, more wonderful than that of women. Now, the problem in the 21st century is that it can't conceive of an intimate friendship without turning it sexual. So many people have suggested that David and Jonathan were in a gay sexual relationship. There is absolutely nothing in this verse or any other verse to indicate that that is what was happening at all. That is just our 21st century minds reading something into a text that is not there. David is simply saying that the intimacy, the closeness of his friendship with Jonathan was something that he valued it more than any other relationships he'd had with women. And I want to suggest to us today that there is a wonder in friendship that we need as the church to rediscover and that we need to celebrate, and that there can and should be close, intimate, non-sexual friendships amongst us that are wholly, totally counter-cultural, that stand out in this age that we live in, and that they are totally essential to human flourishing. And I believe unless we really do discover that fully and live it out, then the church will never be a truly welcoming place, particularly to those people who are single, but also to those people who are same-sex attracted and are living celibate lives, but also to those who are married as well. All of us need to be able to come to the church and find within it intimate, close, non-sexual friendships and relationships, because God's answer to the problem of human loneliness is not just intimacy in marriage. It's not just that, because not everyone will be married. God's answer to intimacy that we need is friendship. It's community. That is his answer. There's a fantastic book by a guy called Ed Shaw. There's the cover. It's called The Plausibility Problem. I'd recommend actually everybody reads this book. It's such a good book. Now, he's particularly talking about the church and same-sex attraction, but the principles within it are really helpful on this whole issue. And he quotes a guy called Andrew Sullivan, who's a journalist. And I think this quote just helps us, particularly for married people here, to understand what this is about. Because it's very easy if you're married to just think, this doesn't apply to me. But it does. Look at what he says here. Families and marriages fail too often because they're trying to answer too many human needs. A spouse is required to be a lover, a friend, a mother, a father, a soulmate, a co-worker, and so on. Few people can be all these things for one person, and when demands are set too high, disappointment can only follow. If husbands and wives have deeper and stronger friendships outside the marital unit, the marriage has more space to breathe and fewer burdens to bear. I think this is a really important subject and is one that we don't talk about very much in church. And I've even struggled really to get it together this week to bring something to you that I think is worth bringing to you. But I think this is important. So I want to just look at three things from the life of David and Jonathan that I think help us a little bit to understand and to put this into practice. So three things for us today. Here we go. First one's really obvious. You ready for a really obvious point? Intimate friendships need the right attitude. Intimate friendships need the right attitude. It is obvious, but it is important to say, is that intimate friendships ultimately flow out of the attitude that we have towards each other. Like that's where it comes from back at the beginning. Now, there's a fascinating kind of mirrored event that takes place between David and Saul, and then between David and Jonathan, that's recorded for us in 1 Samuel. And I find it really interesting. You can be the judge of whether you find it interesting or not, but I find it interesting. So we're going to have a little look. Firstly, 1 Samuel 17, verse 38, in the middle of the battle between David and Goliath, in that moment, we read this. Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic. He put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened on his sword over the tunic and tried walking around because he was not used to them. I can't go in these, he said to Saul, because I'm not used to them. So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. So King Saul gives David his own tunic, his armor, his sword, his weapons, if you like. But David gives it all back to Saul because he can't use them, he can't fight in them. But turn over the page to 1 Samuel chapter 18, and we read this. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic, and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. Whatever mission Saul sent him on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. Now this time, Jonathan gives David his tunic, his sword, all his armor. He gives him everything. And David is now successful in everything he does. Like what's the difference here? What's going on? David was given a tunic and armor by one man, and it was no good. And then he's given a tunic and armor by another man, and it is good. And I want to say that it's not just because Saul's armor didn't physically fit David. I don't think David was having a sort of moment of like, oh, does my bum look big in this sort of thing? I can't wear this. I think that's not what is going on here. I think what lies behind this is the attitude in which the armor and everything was given to David. So Saul's attitude towards David was driven by fear, by jealousy, by control, by a desire to hold David under his power. I think that's what Saul was trying to do, and we see that over the next few chapters because Saul is mega jealous of David. He fully wants to control David. And I think David knows that straight away. So he's like, I cannot fight under this control that you're trying to put on me. Whereas Jonathan was driven by love, by kindness, by wanting David to succeed, by wanting to release David in all that God wanted for David. And so David's able to put that armor on and wear it and fight in it. And so I want to say that having the right attitude towards other people is the soil that good friendships grow in, that they thrive in. Look, if your heart is marked by jealousy, by fear, by control, if it's wanting to hold other people back so that you might succeed, so that you might look good, then everything you do will be tainted by that. It will be there. Even if you think you're doing something nice, it will still be tainted. And ultimately, friendships in your life will not thrive and will not grow. And something that I believe that God would say to us as a church at the moment is this: turn up the grace. Turn up the grace. Turn up the love. Turn up the care. Turn up the kindness and the forgiveness towards each other. Make sure that your attitude is always wanting the best for the other person, wanting to release them into being all that they can be in God. Now, I am not saying that it's a problem at the moment, okay? Don't think, oh, Dunn thinks it's really bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we can always be better. We can always do more. And I think God is calling us to that more, that we don't just sit back and become comfortable. Peter says a great thing. I love this verse in 1 Peter 4. Look at this, what he says. He says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Love each other deeply. Love each other deeply. There's your attitude towards each other. Deep love, intimate love towards each other. Make sure that you want the other person to succeed. Make sure you want the other person to thrive. Make sure you want to release the other person. Make sure that what you're putting on the other person, whatever you give them, is not control. It's not fear. It's not jealousy. And he says that love will cover over a multitude of sins. In other words, a multitude of things that might have come between the two of you. He says here, look, When you've got this deep love, this intimate love, it will cover over that multitude of sins. And then Peter says, just in case you haven't got this, here's how you do it. Offer hospitality without grumbling, without having a little moan about it. This is incredibly practical stuff. Offer hospitality without grumbling. And I think that when our attitudes become marked by that love, that deep love for each other, that desire to release and to not control, then I think we've created the seedbed for intimate friendships and relationships. I think we've created a place then, the soil, if you like, that those people who come into this place looking for love, looking for intimacy, looking to find hope, we want them to find in Jesus, but they'll find also that amongst us as well. So, intimate friendships need the right attitude. That's the first thing. Second thing is this. Everybody still there? Intimate friendships need the right words. I think this is also important. Our words are really important, particularly for men, because we're not very good at words, are we? We're not very good at expressing ourselves to each other, usually. Most of the men here, we will show each other how much we love each other by being really horrible to each other, by ridiculing, by being nasty. And usually the more you ridicule someone is the more you like them. And that's all right. A bit of banter's fine. We all enjoy a bit of fun. But I just think we need to remind each other, men and women here, that words make a difference, that words have power, and that even in the midst of banter and fun, things can be misunderstood. Look at what it says in 1 Samuel. Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. They made a covenant. They made a spoken agreement between the two of them. They made a kind of spoken commitment to each other. We don't quite know what that is. Maybe it was to protect each other. Maybe it was to look out for each other, to be there for each other. Maybe to honor each other's wives, or each other's wife, not wives, wife and children. And that's a good place to start. And maybe if that doesn't sound very manly for some of you to sort of speak some of that stuff out, can I just remind you that David has just come from killing a 9-foot giant. So if you want to discuss manliness, have a chat with him about it. Because he came straight from that moment and then told Jonathan how much he loved him. So there is a place for manliness and speaking out words of love as well. So let me put some words into your mouth for you, because some of us find this hard, and this is biblical words, so it's okay, don't panic. 1 Samuel 20, verse 4, Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it for you." That's what he says. He says that to him. He verbalizes what this covenant of friendship, what this agreement of friendship actually means in practice. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it for you. Now, I think that one of the things we need to work on as Brits is verbalizing what we feel, verbalizing what we think. And there is something really important about speaking out some of this stuff rather than just assuming it. Most of us assume that we think our friends know what we think of them, but we might not be making it very clear. No, you don't have to sit there and say, "I love you, Julian." Because it's going to be awkward for everyone, all right? If that is you, that's great. But I think there's something for saying, "I'm with you, mate. I'm alongside you. I'm there for you. Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it." Rather than just leaving it unspoken. I think there's something really important about speaking some of this stuff out, because our words are important, positive and negative. In Britain, we're a bit prone to the negative words. So let's flip it. Let's be countercultural. Let's speak positively. Do you know what? I'd rather people came in here from outside and they were like, "Oh, my life, that lot are a bit soppy." Like, they're always saying nice things to each other. I would rather that than they come in here and they go away not having a clue whether we actually even like each other. It's better to go too far the nice way, I think. Ed Shaw, the guy who wrote that book I referred to earlier, The Plausibility Problem, he encourages us. He says this he says, verbalize your worries, doubts, fears, and pains, and entrust them to your friends. You know what? If our friendships are going to move beyond just general chit-chat, then it's going to take some vulnerability. It's going to take some verbalizing of some specific stuff. Thursday of this week, Richard Brown rang me, and he said, what can me and Meg pray for? In that moment, I've got a choice, haven't I? Keep it vague or be vulnerable. There's the choice. The easy thing is just to say, oh, could you just pray for, I don't know, just something, innit? Just make something up and just sort of fob him off. I've done that many times, Richard, in the past. No, I haven't, I'm joking. But in that moment, I just thought, no. Especially because I knew what I was preaching on. I thought, I'm going to have to do this. And so I verbalized some stuff. Some things actually quite personal to me. Some of the stuff that I'm just feeling at the moment. I just said to him, this has happened this week. Could you pray for this specifically? And actually talk through. It's a bit vulnerable feeling to share some of that stuff. Now, I know Richard, and I know I can trust him. I know that I can share that stuff with him, and he will keep it to himself. He will pray. He will support me. He'll come back and say, how's that thing going? I feel like I do need to say, it's not an aspect of personal sin. I just want to say that, make that clear, okay? It's something else that's going on. It's not that, in case you're thinking, oh, what's going on there? That's exciting. But unless we actually become a bit more vulnerable with each other, like David and Jonathan were, then our friendships will just stay very shallow. And actually, we will not have the intimate friendships that I think God wants us to have. And one of the things I think we need to do as Christians together particularly, and this is where it's really important for us as believers, is to help each other to see God in the midst of difficult moments. I think that's what he calls us to do. Like any friend can be nice and sympathetic, and we've probably all got friends who are not Christians, and they can be positive, and they can say lovely things, and they can be really helpful, and that's absolutely fantastic. And we need those people, and we should be like that to others as well. But it's only a close, intimate Christian friend who helps you to find God in the midst of difficult moments. There's an occasion in David's life. He's being pursued by Saul. He's being besieged by Saul's army. It's a really tough time for him. And it says this in 1 Samuel 23. And Saul's son, Jonathan, went to David at Horesh and helped him find strength in God. I love that. In the midst of all this difficult moment, Jonathan, at great expense and cost potentially to himself, because remember, the man that is besieging David is Jonathan's dad. Jonathan goes behind the enemy lines alongside David, and it says he helps him find strength in God. Why did I share some stuff with Richard this week? Because I know he won't just give me some nice wisdom. He will do that, or he might do that, but he won't just do that. He will help me to find strength in God. And I think that's so important for us, that together as the church, within individual little groups and couples and all sorts of groups around the church, we help each other to find strength in God. At any one moment in our church, there are people hurting. There are people who are ill. There are relationships breaking down. There are families falling out. There are people looking for jobs. There are all sorts of things going on across our church. There's 200 people come to our church regularly. That's amazing, isn't it? 200 people come to our church regularly. And across that group, there is almost everything that you can imagine in human life is happening at the moment. Okay? That's just normal stuff that goes on. And so let me ask all of us today, how are you specifically, helping people to find strength in God at this time? And if you're not, if you look and just say, I'm not really doing that, could I gently encourage you to start doing it? To start getting alongside people, to get to know people, because there are people in this room right now who need you to help them find strength in God. They need you to step up, if you like, and help them. And if you don't know where to start, well, it's quite simple. It's not rocket science. Go to a home group. There's a good start. If you serve on a team, come alongside some other people, invite somebody over to your house. Doesn't matter if you know them very well, just invite them over. Invite them round. What did Peter say? Offer hospitality without grumbling. Everything within you can't be bothered to do it, but don't say it. Offer it without grumbling. That's what he says. Can I say that your house is big enough and you can cook well enough? Can you put a jacket potato in a microwave and some beans as well? You can have somebody over for dinner. That's all you need. Don't get caught up with this thing that hospitality has to be amazing and all this. No, it doesn't. Have somebody for coffee. If things are tricky at home, and I understand that some of you, perhaps you've got non-Christian partners and that's all a bit difficult, I get that. Okay, we've got some cafes in town, haven't we? Meet in a cafe. Meet somewhere. Go for a walk with somebody. Just reach out to people. And not just the people that you know, but to others as well. If you look around this room, there'll be people that you don't recognize very well. You might have seen them once or twice. Well, after this service, go and say hello. Go and say, oh, it'd be nice to have a coffee together. Now, it might turn out that it wasn't nice to have a coffee together, but don't worry about that. Just, I'm joking. Just do it. Offer hospitality without grumbling. Don't grumble. Right, last thing. It's always the asides that kill me. That's the problem, isn't it? I'm doing all right, and then I make a silly joke that spoils it. So sorry about that. Intimate friendships need the right investment. Intimate friendships need the right investment. Now, there are some people that we click with quickly, but generally speaking, deep, intimate friendships take time. They take time and perseverance to develop. So David and Jonathan make a lifelong commitment. It starts right back here in 1 Samuel 18 and it continues all the way through. And if you read through the rest of 1 Samuel, you will see constantly David and Jonathan cropping up, having these moments where they just say something to each other or they renew their covenant or they're there for each other. It only ends at the end of 1 Samuel in chapter 31 when Jonathan is killed on the battlefield. That is the only time when it finishes. But you see their relationship over a long period of time, over a number of years. Quick chats after a Sunday service are great, but they will not create intimate friendships. Can I say that the Cornish classic conversation of, all right, yeah, you, that will not do it. How many of us have those conversations? All right, yeah, you. What a pointless conversation. You might as well not have said anything. That is not how you build close friendships. It's not going to do anything. We need to linger in each other's company. Linger in each other's company. We need to be there with each other in the good times and in the bad times. I count Graham Stevens a close friend. I hope he does back as well. And over the years, we have lingered in each other's company a lot. Our families have lingered together. We've done the stuff together. Our kids have grown up together. We've had fun. We've had a good laugh. We've done things and we haven't done things. We've just lingered. And then on the darkest days, I've counted it an absolute privilege to be there with Graham and Josh and Sol. An absolute privilege. Not just there in spirit, not just a text message, but to actually be there in person with him. Not to give advice, not to fix anything, not to be a pastor, none of that stuff, but just to be there and to cry and to laugh and just be there in that moment. And I know that on dark days in my life, he would do the same to me as well. There's others I could point out in this room in the same way as well. Now, we can't do that depth for everyone all the time. We don't have the capacity for that, but we can do it for some. We can do it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many people it might be. And if you don't have those people in your life at the moment, please don't be upset about it. Don't blame everyone else for it. That's the worst thing to do. But just today, resolve that you want that and start working towards it. And I know that can be hard. I know people can reject you, and I know things can go wrong, friendships can go wrong. There's people who were in my life who are no longer in my life, and it hurts because stuff goes wrong in our lives. But anything that is worth having takes effort and takes investment. And I believe that close, intimate friendships are worth having. And so they will take effort and they will take some work. But it starts with just a conversation. It starts with inviting someone round. It starts with offering hospitality without grumbling. And I also believe that as you do that, you might end up being the answer to someone else's prayer, just as much as they're the answer to your prayer. So, intimate friendships need the right attitude, they need the right words, they need the right investment. I haven't said anything to you here today that you wouldn't know already, but it's a reminder. And my desire, if you like, today is to call us as a church to grow in intimate friendships, to allow that to flourish and to thrive amongst us as a church. Even if you've already got loads of friends, that's great. We'll have some more. Bring some more people into that group. Don't just sit back and say, I'm all right, Jack. I'll just pull up the ladder. I'll just crack on as I am. Open up to others. Invite others in. And I want us to increasingly see the wonder of friendship, this gift that God has given to us, this incredible gift that he's given that helps us to thrive, that helps us to grow, it helps us to flourish, it helps us to see who he is. So that Discovery Church becomes this place where anyone who walks into this building can come and find these intimate friendships. If we want to be a place where single people can come and same-sex attracted celibate people can come, married people whose partners don't come to church can come, and married couples can come, then we need to have these intimate relationships. We need to develop them. We need to work on it. And I think we do really well at it, but we're not quite there yet, are we? There's always more. We can always be better. We can always work harder, if you like, at it. So I want to ask us to commit ourselves to the wonder of friendship, to see what God might do in us and through us, and to ask him to use it for his glory, that all of us might become more Christ-like as we follow him, and that those who don't know him may see something of Jesus reflected in our relationships. How is it Jesus said? All people will know that you are my disciples because you have love for each other. That's what we want to be. Amen? I didn't quite plan how to finish this one. We've got a song, haven't we? Let's sing a song. Come on, let's sing a song.